Talking to myself again.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Wednesday night, which means it's a night where I'm joined by Supermac and John Gibson. Good evening, lads.
Hello, Steve. Good evening to you, John.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. And as always, plenty to talk about with Newcastle United. We'll be looking tonight, obviously, at ASM and his new contracts. We'll be looking at Dubravka, the shock news that there's been a setback for Dubravka with his recovery. And we'll also talk about, first of all, this big picture, which has been an absolute farce from start to finish. This big six idea in the Premier League, Malcolm, certainly raised a lot of eyebrows and angered a lot of supporters and ex-players. Yeah,
quite right. I think it's absolutely outrageous what they're trying to do, all led by Liverpool and Manchester United. And of course, the owners of both of those clubs aren't British, so they don't understand how it's all worked in this country for many decades and more, to become the most successful, richest league in the world, and now they really want to start getting hold of everything, all bit of power that's going, and cut the numbers down to half a dozen clubs. And I see that Arsenal have, I believe, have said we're not that interested, because it's going to make it a real power group, and the rest of football is never going to matter after that. Once they've got a group on it, they'll never let it go, I don't think, John.
But the point is, and we're very thankful for this, Malcolm, is this afternoon it's been knocked on the head.
Yes.
It's been voted against by the Premier League, with the Football Association putting their penneth in, etc. And it had to be knocked on the head, because it was the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Yes.
It was just a land grab, Malcolm, by Liverpool and Manchester United. It would have killed all the romance of what happened with Leicester City, and significantly, from our point of view, it would have allowed the Super Six to be able to veto any Newcastle United takeover in the future. Now, that is...
I didn't realise it went that far.
Oh, it did. It did, Malcolm. And the interesting thing on this is twofold. They are a Super Six, although there's 9 altogether, the Super Six. Now, they, Malcolm, are not going to want a club from the outside of that six to break into their six and dilute their power. So they're not going to allow clubs to be taken over in the way that Manchester City were taken over all those years ago and become a superpower. And what worries me, Malcolm, is that this is the suspicious side of me. If they feel like that now, and that was part of their proposal, what influence did they try to have on making certain the Newcastle United takeover didn't happen? Because the Super Six, had it happened before the project Big Picture had come out in the open, the Super Six would have been on the verge of a Super Seven. Once our takeover had happened, they couldn't have stopped it. But They didn't want it to happen. Now, did they bring any influence to bear? I'm very suspicious of their situation and circumstances. Very, very suspicious. And thank goodness that sanity has reigned, and it's going to allow football to reign, and it's going to allow every club and their supporters to have what they deserve, which is hope for a fabulous future. That would have been killed by Manchester United and Liverpool.
Yes, it would. And I think that, for heaven's sake, football is about competition. And here we have two clubs who are trying to kill competition off.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was for me. It was destroying the whole of the meaning of football, and it appalled me. Absolutely.
Yep. It was a power play.
Totally. If we're not allowed to dream, when I say we, I mean as fans. If us three aren't allowed to dream, if all the Newcastle United fans are not allowed to dream of what maybe, why can't we dream that one day we'll win the Champions League? Every club should dream that. Leicester were dreaming that one day they might win the Premier League. Then they did. If you take those dreams away, you take away the whole essence of football.
Yeah, 100% agree with both of you lads. It's been very, very disappointing to see that, but not unexpected. And again, it's the cartel. And funny that it's almost like a game of poker where you show your hand too early. You know what I mean? And they've done that this time. We've been calling the Premier League. When I say we, Newcastle fans have been calling the Premier League corrupt for the way that they handled this whole, attempted takeover by the Saudis. But they've just gone and proved it with this, separate agenda. And by all accounts, this has been in the planning since 2017. It's not just a new idea. It's something that they've been plotting and planning for quite a while, But why on earth choose a COVID pandemic to suddenly, announce it? I just think they've lost their minds.
Yeah, and it really does now put into question, doesn't it, the excuses that the Premier League made when they at the end of it all they said but we had asked questions, we were waiting for answers, and they never came, and so it went on for 17 odd weeks. Well, what's happened and what's been said in these last few days, and what I'm finding out here and now, I have grave doubts as to whether the Premier League are actually telling the truth
it worries me, Malcolm. It worries me the influence that clubs have had behind the scene to try to stop the Newcastle United takeover happening. That is the very, very disturbing fact that's come out of this as far as Newcastle United fans are concerned. What influence have these two clubs and others in the six had to help block the Newcastle United takeover because it didn't suit them? And by the way, congratulations to the Telegraph newspaper who broke this story, that this was happening behind the scenes and this was the plan. They blew it wide open, and as a result of blowing it wide open, everybody's gone berserk, and the rebellion has grown and grown by the hour, not just by the day. So well done, the Telegraph. But I am angry. I am angry and suspicious about what hand has been dealt behind the scenes on the Newcastle United takeover.
Yes, absolutely, John.
And that will come out in the wash, lads, eventually, by hook or by crook, whether the takeover goes through or not. All of that dirty linen will get washed in public at some point.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, there's been more cryptic pictures by Nick DeMarco, the QC, who's in charge of Mike Ashley's fight against the Premier League. So, let's see what happens with that. Liam Kennedy's been writing some pretty good stuff in the Shields Gazette. Obviously, he's got his contacts, and he seemed very optimistic on the show last night. He feels that, wheels are turning, and that, we may have a maybe it's a late Christmas present. So fingers crossed. Let's hope that does happen. And big shout out again, as always, to Darren Baldwin Funerals, local independent family business, 24-hour service, for sponsoring StreamYard this month. And a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk for sponsoring as well. And they're the ones who sorted out the snazzy t-shirts with John and Malcolm will have next week. They will be in the post, lads. And he's even sorted me a cup out, lad. So I've got a brew now.
Oh, yeah. Just as long as you get looked after, Steve. Never mind. Over here.
Have you noticed that, Malcolm?
I'm the guinea pig, and then if I think they're okay, I say yes, and then I send them to you. So the t-shirts are winging the way over, lads. Be careful, man. Don't give us any cheek. You'll get an extra small. Anyway, big news today. Two bits of big news breaking from St James's Park as we start getting back towards normal football after the international break, and that is ASM. It seems that the white smoke has risen from the chimney at St James's. Peace has broken out, and ASM has agreed a new 6-year deal. Malcolm, is that good news? Do we expect it to? Yeah,
fabulous, absolutely brilliant news. What all they need now is to get some is to get the necessary players playing with him to really make the side strong. You know, otherwise, because it's very much becoming a bit of a one-man band, and that's no good at this level in the Premiership. No good at all. Yep.
John, are you happy to see ASM?
Oh, very much. I've been banging on fair about him, saying he's the one breath of fresh air that makes me want to watch Newcastle United. I'm not degrading the other players at all. I mean, Callum Wilson's been fabulous, etc., etc. Yeah. Darlow's done wonderful since he came in. But the guy that is likely to get me off my seat is Saint-Maximin. Now, Malcolm was saying last week about how we've got to make certain that he doesn't leave. I totally agreed, and I've been writing about the fact that the top Champions League clubs will start sniffing very, very quickly when he plays very well against them, as he will, and that may well start on Saturday night with him playing very well against Manchester United. How interested might they become? So he went away, as you probably both realise, guys. He went back to France during this international fortnight and gave an interview while over saying that he wants to see Newcastle match his ambition from the stay. And if on the long term they didn't match his ambition, he may have had a go. Now, that is understandable. We've both said that. Malcolm and I have both said publicly that if Newcastle don't do the biz, people want to go. It happened as long ago as the 80s when we had Waddle, Beardsley and Gascoigne who all left because of Newcastle's lack of ambition. We need to show that ambition. The 6 years is wonderful because, for a start, doesn't he deserve a pay rise? Dear me, he was getting less than some players that can't even get into the side. And he was the best player in the side. So he deserved that pay rise. And what the 6 years does, it doesn't guarantee that he'll be here for 6 years, because if Newcastle are poor and he wants to go and a big enough offer comes in, we'll know Newcastle will cash in on him. But the 6 years gives the club a safety net that he can't go for peanuts because he's got 1 year, 2 years left on his contract, and it gives him a feeling of being wanted and a pay structure that puts him at the top of the. I mean, to think of some of the players who were going to have more money in him was an absolute nonsense. So yes, it is good news all around.
Okay, on the flip side, of course, Dubravka, who was certainly our player of the season last season, Malcolm, has suffered a setback, according to Martin Hardy tonight. Just reading the article there before we came on air. It was a heel injury that he originally had, which he sustained when he was in his home country, Slovakia. And basically, the specialists have had a look at it, and it hasn't healed the way that they wanted to. So we're talking about potentially another 6 to 8 week layoff, which means he won't be back until Christmas.
Well, it's a shame. It's a shame for the club and certainly for the player himself. Thank heavens, though, that Darlow he's really shown himself to have the makings of being a really good goalkeeper. I think he's done absolutely super. He had one dodgy game, and he looked nervous. But he seemed to immediately afterwards, going into the start of the next game, he looked confident, and he's just grown and grown and grown from there. And so the disaster that is the injury to Dubravka. It's come out sort of smelling of roses by the form of Darlow. But if Darlow gets injured, I'm not sure what's coming behind him.
Yeah, okay, John. It's a bad blow, isn't it, really, for Dubravka? Clearly our player of the season last season. But as Malcolm says, Darlow's done well.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, Dubravka, I've been a huge fan of him. There was times last season when he played sides on his own. He had never missed a Premier League game since he arrived in Newcastle until this injury. And I must admit that I felt the way I think a lot of Newcastle fans felt when I heard about Dubravka's injury originally. I feared the worst. We were in pre-season and I thought, dear, oh dear, oh dear. One of our two top players is now out long term. Where does that leave us? And I thought it was a huge blow. Darlow has stepped up and been magnificent, beyond my hopes. And the Spurs game will have given huge confidence, which he'll be able to live off for quite a while. But as Malcolm said before, when we're talking, you need two quality goalkeepers, because if Darlow gets injured, and I know that we're pushing our bad luck here with Dubravka, but it can easily happen, especially with the goalkeeper who is at risk every time he comes out and drops at somebody's feet, etc., etc. He's at risk of injury. If he gets injured, then we are on the bones, because Woodman is away. Gillespie, who did well in his first League Cup tie, then dropped the clanger against Newport. They almost put Newcastle out of the competition. You can't hold that against a lad. It will happen with goalkeepers. But he was brought here as the number 3. Dubravka's top class. Darlow has proved himself to be top class, but it's still a blow that he's going to be out till December. There's absolutely no question about that. It's still a blow. But as Malcolm said, thank goodness that Darlow has stepped up to the crease in the way that he has done.
International,
and he looks the part as well, doesn't he, John? Darlow,
he does.
And all of a sudden, he actually looks the part, and there's you can see that inner confidence about him, and there's confidence in the back four in him now.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, and that's good.
Yeah, international football obviously has put a pause to Newcastle United's season. Are you an international fan, Malcolm? You wore the shirt with pride. You still hold the record for the most goals in one game. But I was saying to John earlier that, since '96, the semi-final in '96, I haven't really had as much excitement. Even the recent semi-final that England were in, it wasn't the same. I don't know why, and I don't make as much effort now to watch England as I did when I was a bit younger. Is it just me?
No, it's not just you, Steve. I don't think. I've been a bit the same myself. I've been somewhat disillusioned with what I've been watching in the past few years. But I have to say, I sat down and I watched the England game against Belgium, and England, they were getting a bit of a tanking from Belgium, but I watched them slowly work so hard and looked to get back into it, and they climbed the mountain. They did it, and then all of a sudden they turned the tables on Belgium and England. I felt over the full 90, I felt that they really deserved the win. They got good goals, and Henderson in the middle of the park. I thought he was absolutely superb in the way that he just generaled the whole thing, and you could see him talking to people, helping them, and just showing them where they should be going. And I was very impressed. What I hope sincerely is that they don't suddenly plummet back off the top of the mountain and drop a boo-boo against Denmark tonight. It concerns me that might be a possibility. I hope they can just show the same mettle and the same desire as they showed against Belgium, and I should be a happy man.
Gibbo?
Yeah, I more or less agree absolutely with what Malcolm said. What we've got to realise, and I, like Malcolm, when I watched the first half against Belgium, I thought they was second best by a country mile. And Belgium were number one in the rankings, and they looked number one against England. But then you suddenly saw this transformation, which was slow. But we've also got to remember that up top, England started without Kane and Sterling, who are two of their big hitters. Neither played up front because of injury or tiredness or muscle strain, and Kane, who come on late. But they played without both those guys and still managed to turn the whole thing round. But I mean, what I'm finding odd, Steve, is that I find it very difficult to support one side that regularly wins absolutely nothing, which is Newcastle United, without supporting two sides that regularly win nothing, which is Newcastle United and England. So I get a bit exhausted by doing both of those things. And my greatest concern is seeing Newcastle go on and do something. But there are signs with England, but I get cynical like I do with Newcastle. I think if there were signs with the golden generation, Malcolm, when we were told what the golden generation were going to do, you know, with Gerrard and Lampard and etc. Bottom line, we didn't win anything. Newcastle United, we've had lovely signs with Keegan's Entertainers and with Bobby Robson's side that went to third top and played a pile of Champions League games. Nearly there with Newcastle, nearly there with England. The breakthrough, I would love it to come with both. But if only one side can win something, then I know which it has to be for me, and that's Newcastle United.
You selfish so-and-so.
There was some sad news.
Lovely, isn't it?
Been some sad news since we last met last Wednesday. Tommy Robson passed away, and again, we've lost another one of the golden greats, and someone who played a fantastic role at Newcastle, Gibbo.
Yeah. Tommy was a dear friend of mine. I knew him from the day he come and signed at Newcastle. I knew him before that when he was at Chelsea, actually. His dad was a barber in Gateshead. Tommy was thrilled to bits to come to Newcastle United. He was at a big club, Chelsea, but he loved coming to Newcastle United. And, you know, the season we qualified for the Intercities Fairs Cup, which we won, we qualified to a great extent because of Tommy Robson, because he scored 11 goals that season. He was the second top goal scorer behind Wyn Davies. And he was a great reason for us making it to there. He went away to Peterborough, become an absolute legend, played 500 and odd games for them, scored 200 and odd goals, but he never forgot us. And he kept in touch, and I know Malcolm met him when he come up here to the upstairs to watch games. He kept in touch with his roots here. And I remember him ringing me last year to tell me that he had this disease that is claimed, bless him, in the end, the multi-neuron disease. And he told me, and he said, you know, he got the family around him together. They had a little cry, and then the Geordie spirit come out. Hey, well, I'm going to fight this. Who says I'm going to die? I'm going to give this a real go, and he did. And he phoned me after that, and he was in the throes of trying to arrange with my help for a testimonial to be played either at the end of last season or before this season between Newcastle and Peterborough, with the proceeds going not to him, but to the multi-neuron disease charity. That obviously got overtaken by coronavirus, because to raise money, you've got to have a crowd in. It couldn't happen at the end of last season. It couldn't happen at the beginning of this season. And then the whole thing is overtaken completely, and sadly, he's passed away. I didn't expect it to be that quick. We knew it was coming, but not that quick. And we have lost a genuinely good guy, a genuine Geordie, who I had personal affection for. And I don't forget the part he played in us qualifying for Europe, because what happened in Europe is the happiest time of my life of following Newcastle, because we actually won something the last time we won something. So Tommy has a special place in my heart and in lots of people's hearts. Tragic the way it happened, and so quickly to a man. I always get that way, Malcolm, when footballers pass away. And we've had Hibby years ago, and we've had Jim Scott from the Fairs Cup side. I always think of footballers as being invincible. I always remember them the way they were in the pomp. I remember them as young men bursting with energy, bursting with fitness, bursting with life, and forget that they get old. But I forget I get old, because mentally I haven't. So I don't think of that happening. And it's therefore always a shock to me when somebody that I've got to love on a personal basis, as well as watching him professionally, passes away. And Tommy did strike me as a particular blow in the last week.
Sure. The thing that really struck me when I first met him, and it was in the last couple of years when he came up for this particular Newcastle game as a guest of Bob Moncur's, was his great enthusiasm. His enthusiasm for Newcastle United, even though he was involved down at Peterborough, his great enthusiasm for the game of football itself. And I just loved his company. He really was absolutely super company. And I was seeing his enthusiasm rub off on other people all around. And it was just lovely to take part with him.
No, fantastic, lovely tribute from you there, John. And our thoughts are with Tommy Robson's family, and
Sure.
Perfect summing up from you, John. We're going to go to the comments now. I know they're mounting up, and plenty of questions coming in from everybody. James Brown will give you the question first. He says, "Are you happy with the players we've signed? Do you think there's any areas which we need to strengthen? And if so, who would you like to see, Malcolm?"
Well, what I would like to see at the moment is absolute solid support up front. We've got a guy who has shown us that he can score goals, and he's an absolute natural. But I don't see anybody just getting in there, taking taking part with him in the box. All too often, he's the only guy in the box, even when we're playing at home at St James Park. And I'm looking at St Maximum. He'll get there. He's doing great, and you can see that the goal scorer is watching St Maximum all the time, because he knows that there's going to be a supply coming his way on a regular basis. But people like Almiron, he's got to be so much more positive than he is at the moment. For me, as quick as he is, watch how many times he goes only to check back. Well, when you've got that kind of pace, keep going. You know that you can come across defenders instead of just running in straight lines. Bend your run. Come across defenders. They might well pull you down. Okay, fine. You've got a free kick, or even better, you've got a penalty. But it puts the defender out the game as well. And I'm not seeing Almiron do that. And if he did, he would start to create goal chances, not just for himself, but for others as well, and supplying them into the box. And I need to see a lot more from generally from the midfield, in creating the supply, in pushing forward. You know, we're dropping off too much. So I want to see people take a far more positive attitude when they're going out on the pitch, and they're going to need it on this weekend. I can assure you, they are going to have to be positive.
If coming on, Steve, to the signings we've made, sort of what do I think of them? Callum, it's early doors, of course. We're only 4 league games in, so it's early doors to form an opinion. It won't shift, because it will shift. But Callum Wilson's got a big tick next to him for the most obvious reasons. Ryan Fraser, I'm looking for him to knock on now big time. After his performance the other night for Scotland against Slovakia, he didn't start against Israel. He started against Slovakia and did exceptionally well. He's yet to start for us in the Premier League because he wasn't up to match fitness, having had this 6-month layoff after his situation with Bournemouth, where he finished his contract. I'm looking for a big breakthrough now, quickly, from Ryan Fraser. Hendrick, steady away, midfielder, steady away. No better than that, no worse than that. Have we got too many steady away players? Maybe. He will not let the side down, but he won't take a game by the scruff of the neck. Young Lewis at left back, very hopeful for him, very quick. Can't defend at the moment. I think Malcolm spotted that as well. The guy can get on the wrong side of him off set pieces. Not quite the best. Gillespie's what he is, the third choice goalkeeper. Should we have done more in the transfer market? Yes, I would have liked a centre half, and we definitely needed a centre forward. We can't get them now unless the free transfers are from the Championship before Friday, and it doesn't look as if that's going to happen. So I've got a few worries, but let's remain positive. We're going out. Injuries like the Drogba thing that happened, like what happens to Callum Wilson, what happens to San Maximum. These are the guys. To have a chance, we've got to keep fit.
Yeah, good stuff. A lot of questions coming in. Raymondo makes a point about crowds. Now, this is interesting because Dunstan, I'm not sure what's happening at North Shields, still allowing crowds in. But bigger events.
North Shields, just to update you on that, they are allowed 150 maximum in the ground. Their usual crowd is somewhere between 280 and 450.
Okay.
And so they are seriously losing money hand over fist.
Right.
And,
okay.
And also, what I would like to add on that when you get 150 in and they're all spaced out, the far end is empty. The far end of the ground is empty. On 3 sides, and they could easily get another 120, 140 in, therefore doubling the gate almost, and still everybody would be well spaced out. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that they should they should treat all of the grounds as one. That they should go and inspect the grounds and then give a figure for each ground.
It's interesting, though, that, for instance, a dinner went ahead last night in an audience where Arsene Wenger was promoting his new book with Dan Walker from the BBC. There was 1,000 people there. The opera,
Yes.
needless to say, has gone ahead. And
Yep.
the Conservative ministers, some of them who like that kind of thing, have been going to it. So the Ray's point was, why on earth can't we go to football if all of these other events are going ahead?
And also, I'll just follow up on what I was saying and the points that you're making, Steve, that it has been decreed that football clubs cannot open their bar in the hour before the kickoff, and they cannot have them open in the hour after the game. Why? Pubs are open.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
Where's the sense of it? You know, it's one rule for them and another rule for them over there. I just find it sheer madness. And also, what I have to say is, that it seems that the Durham FA and the Northumberland FA are in cahoots and making these rules together. And they are literally rules that are damaging the league. And in damaging these leagues, good heavens above, this is a strong part of the local football associations, and they seem to be wanting to destroy them. I find it, because in North Yorkshire there's no restrictions. You know that Newcastle played down at Northallerton. North Shields played down at Northallerton. It's in North Yorkshire, and they could have had over 300. Not a problem. Yeah. You know, so those over in Cumbria that play in the Northern League, they're not limited. I just find it madness.
John, it is mad, isn't it, really? I mean, you know, I appreciate that, you know, certain age groups and certain people with underlying health conditions, etc., are all going to be wary. But are we not adults? You know, would it not be made more sense and said, this is how it's going to be, and, you know, we're advising you to do this rather than telling people what to do, which, of course, a lot of people don't like being told what to do, John, and I think it's going to lead to issues. But just concentrating on the football side of it, you know, God, you know, you could still have crowds in, couldn't you? I think it's starting to get on people's wick.
Yeah, it is. And it is a huge problem that football's got to face. And the reason they've got to face it is because it would now appear that a very fluid situation. We were all hopeful, weren't we? Originally, before this season started late, there was an early October sort of deadline on the situation when crowds of a limited number were going to be allowed back in St. James's Park. That then got quickly shelved as the coronavirus seemed to come in a second wave. If this second wave is going to be with us for some considerable time, and it would appear that it is, decisions have got to be made now as to what happens, because football is going to be hammered so badly at all levels to be untrue. And of course, what is really, Steve, annoying me as well is not just can't we get limited crowds back in. Newcastle United with a 52,000-seater stadium couldn't have social distancing and allow X number of fans in the size of their crowd, their ground. Of course they could. But what is now happening as well is that all the good intentions that we had initially, Malcolm, whereby every Premier League game went live on telly because the crowd couldn't go to the grounds, so they were given their game to watch because that was only the decent thing to do. What's happened to that? That's completely gone by the wayside now. And unless it's poker match of the day material, you've now paid 50 or whatever it is to watch Newcastle play Manchester United this Saturday night. So all these wonderful good intentions whereby, all right, we won't allow you into grounds, but we will still allow you to be able to see the games, albeit second best on telly. That isn't happening anymore. If you want to do that now, when we're only in the beginning of October, then you pay for it. So we've gone backwards instead of forwards.
Right. But also, John, what you're forgetting is that sitting at home are all the season ticket holders of Newcastle United, and there are tens of thousands of them, that they paid the full whack for last season and weren't able to see it all, but they didn't get any refund at all, and their direct debits were hit for this season that's being played now. So these season ticket holders who pay on direct debits, they've had the money taken from them. Now they're being asked, if you want to see the game, you've got to pay again. I find it utterly extraordinary that the Football League, they're just, it appears to me they want to milk this horrendous situation when people have already been milked. Yeah. And I think, oh, come on, let's play the game reasonably here and just get it up and get all the games on television. Let the television make their money with adverts and what have you. But I think that the Premier League are just being wickedly greedy in this, and they're not really looking at the situation. And with this other situation that we've already discussed that the Premier League have been involved in, they're just doing nothing but making enemies at the moment.
$14.95 to watch Newcastle United versus Manchester United this weekend really is only going to do one thing, and that is encourage people to find an alternative way of watching it, i.e. piracy.
Yes.
And that is something that they've been trying to stamp out. But believe you me, everybody who wants to watch that game will get an opportunity to watch it without paying $14.95.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that's a scandal. I really do.
Go on, John.
That's absolutely right. They will find a way of watching the game. It is piracy. That was the big thing. One of the 20 things that was supposed to hold up the Newcastle takeover because of the piracy situation. This is encouraging us towards piracy. What I found lovely in the current situation is the fact that some fans said rather than give $14.95 and be held to ransom to watch their own team, they were giving the $14.95 to the food banks. And I thought that was absolutely terrific. It is very, very difficult to ask Newcastle United fans not to watch Newcastle United. We've had that old red herring for how many years now, Steve, where you know, people saying don't go to the game and it'll rock Ashley, etc., etc. Asking Newcastle United fans in the thousands not to support Newcastle, find that very, very difficult and almost impossible. And the same situation applies here, but it is a nonsense, and people will watch the game illegally, and that is what will come out of all this. But the moral side of it, the fact that initially we were all told, don't you worry, you will see in the Premier League all your clubs play, because the coronavirus might have shut down the grounds, but they'll all be for free on telly. How will that last? You know, we haven't got a couple of months into a new season, and that's gone by the board. Like everything else, everybody's playing angles during a coronavirus pandemic that is absolutely terrifying, and that included the Project Big Picture, who is looking to take advantage of a situation like this and railroad through the most disgraceful land grab in the history of football. Thank goodness that got nailed today. And, you know, what's happening this week deserves to be nailed too. But football fans are just getting taken for a ride, and they're the people that ought to be considered in this and considered greatly. Don't kill people's dreams like Project Big Picture, and don't take the money out of Geordie's pockets and other people's pockets in the Premier League when haven't even certainly got jobs to go to in the near future.
Yeah, well said, lads. And a lot of people saying great points made by you two guys. They love listening to your opinions. So thanks for the feedback. Man United, you know, at home is always a big game, Malcolm. It's always a huge game, and the crowd plays its part in those games. We saw what happened with Matty Longstaff, you know, last season, getting that fantastic goal at the Gallagher end. It was like one of the boyhood dreams, and fantastic to see that happen. There's no crowd, obviously, so the game is going to be different, like all the games. And before we come on to the Man United game, is that playing its part? Do you think the players are missing it? We've seen some absolutely bizarre results. We just need to look back to that last weekend of football where Liverpool lost, you know, conceded 7 goals. Man United lost, conceded 6 goals. You know, is the lack of fans at places like Old Trafford and Anfield and St James's Park and the Etihad, is it playing its part?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's when you walk out of the tunnel and you have genuinely 50,000 people screaming their heads off, it lifts you, and the adrenaline flows and what have you. And I hear the police have been called, by the way, to Liverpool Football Club because they were in excess of 6.
Yeah.
No, boy.
I was waiting for John to laugh, but I keep forgetting John's on a delay there.
But no,
I know.
Seriously,
I'll laugh tomorrow.
Aston Villa were absolutely terrific. They really were, and ripped Liverpool apart. And also, and let's not forget this, because they are our opponents this coming weekend, that Man United, despite going a goal ahead in the first couple of minutes, they absolutely got murdered by Spurs. And if I were Steve Bruce, I would have got the recording of that and sat all the players down and made them watch it over and over and over again to see just what Spurs were doing to absolutely carve Man United to pieces. And it wasn't anything out of this world, but it was just simple, good, strong attacking, getting bodies into the Man United box, which is something that Newcastle lack. They are lacking in getting enough bodies into the box, and Spurs did it, and they won 6, for heaven's sake, despite going a goal down, and Newcastle. So get forward. It's no use defending against the side like Man United. They will carve you apart. But if you go and put the pressure on them, as Spurs did, you can finish up absolutely tanking them.
You can. Laura, yes, I haven't watched it yet, but ASM's put a video out on his Twitter feed basically praising the Newcastle fans and the city after signing his new contract, which is very nice of him. Yeah, John, you know, we've talked about the fans not being at the ground. We're saying, you know, it would be nice to get them in, but does it have an effect, you know, not having that 12th man?
Oh, I think it does have an effect without a shadow of doubt. I mean, I'll ask you this. Would you prefer to go to Anfield with nobody in Anfield, or would you prefer to go to Anfield and have them attacking you at the Kop end? And the same applies to Newcastle in that time. It does make a big difference. But, you know, what I would like to say, guys, with the tongue in the cheek, and it is firmly in the cheek here, is as we look forward to Saturday night, Newcastle v Man United, we know that we're going to do well because Man United were beaten 6-1 by Spurs and we got a 1-1 draw at Spurs. So on the law of averages, we are going to muller them something horrible this Saturday night because there's the form guide. We're going to muller. The fact is that we didn't get a kick either with Spurs, and on another day it might well, Malcolm, have been 6-1 against us down there. Because it was Darlow that prevented that happening, and Darlow alone. And you can look at this game. You can look at this game two ways. The obvious way to look at it is that they've had a bad start to the season, Man U. They're coming off a 6-1 home defeat. I mean, De Gea is nowhere near the goalkeeper he was. He's gone from the world's number one to being looked upon as a joke. Maguire looked so slow he couldn't catch a cold. Shaw at left back is just like a Mason. Martial is suspended. No, absolutely. Martial's suspended this weekend. Cavani is in isolation, so can't play. So if you add those up, this is a great chance for Newcastle United. Though we know only too well, all three of us, because we've supported Newcastle long enough, we know that they'll come thirsting for a backlash against all the bad publicity they've had, and with a couple of new signings who are playing and will meet an invigorated Manchester United. We know that because we've had it so often. But on the current situation, Newcastle United aren't going to be in a better position to put the pressure on Manchester United. And I couldn't agree more with Malcolm that the only way to do that is to have a pop at them. It is no good trying to defend and take it from there. We've got to have a pop at them.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree with you. Lots of people talking about the Man United game, and a lot of people seem to think that, we have a chance. Man United are probably there for the taking. And somebody's also mentioned that it's like a training game without the crowd, which I would agree with. And I think that's why we've seen a few weird results. Man City certainly haven't seemed to grasp this with no crowd. There's definitely effect. So I would agree 100% with you, lads, and definitely. Malcolm, then. Just going through the squad for the weekend, and obviously we've heard the news there about Dubravka. He won't be available now. He's going to be out for a few months. For those of you just tuning in, there is better news on the fitness of Kieran Clark, Paul Dummett, and Matty Longstaff. They all could be available at the weekend, not confirmed yet. News on the fitness of Jamal Lascelles is still awaited. Along obviously with our international contingent of Miguel Almiron, Ryan Fraser, Jeff Hendrick, Fabian Shaw, and Emil Kraft. Jamal Lewis, who I haven't touched on yet, is doubtful though with an Achilles tendon problem. Again, confirmation on all of that will come from Steve Bruce at his press conference. As somebody's just mentioned in the chat, Anthony Martial will be suspended for the game at St James's Park. He is suspended after the last game. There is possibility of a debut for Alex Telles for Man United, but Edison Cavani will miss out due to the quarantine regulations with this COVID situation. But like we've already said, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side have had a bizarre beginning to the season. They've won all three of their league and cup away games. 3-0 at Luton in the league, 3-2 at Brighton in the Premier League, and 3-0 at Brighton in the EFL Cup. But at Old Trafford, they're still pointless. So, we're playing them at our place. They'll be expecting to get something. So it's in the balance. Like John says, the form book would suggest Newcastle could win this. So, Malcolm, how do you see this game going?
Well, I'm seeing all the comments at the bottom there. And people are saying, that Newcastle are going to be playing huge numbers at the back. That's not the way to take Man United on, the way they are at the moment. The way to get the better of them is to put the pressure on them in and around their own penalty area and keep them back there. Once they're in their own penalty area, they're not a danger. And so don't invite danger to come at you in and around your own penalty area. look to keep it as far up the park as you possibly can. And Shelby, he needs to push forward. You know, as soon as he starts sitting back, everybody else has to sit back. We want Shelby to be looking to play on the edge of the Man United box and looking to feed it in and maybe getting the odd shot in and what have you. And as Shelby is pushing forward, he can supply St. Maximin and others. But sitting back, whoa, then you're inviting Man United not only to come and attack you, but by playing that way, you're giving confidence to Man United. And at the moment, their confidence has been blown sky high. Or blown up, rather. I don't mean that it's gone sky high. I mean that it's that after that last result, they must be feeling that like their chins are on the ground. So get onto them, go and rub it in, and put the pressure on them, and they will fold. De Gea, I thought he was absolutely super, and then about 2 years ago, things just started to go wrong for him. And right now, to be quite honest, if I were in the Manchester United side, I wouldn't back pass to him for fear he'd miss it. You know, so get on to the weak part, and the weak part right now is De Gea, and just fire shots in willy-nilly.
I agree, Malcolm. I agree. John, would you do the same? I think Maguire's a weak link at the minute as well. I think his head's elsewhere after his arrest in pre-season.
Good point.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The weakness, unquestionably, Manchester United side is at the back, not at the front. When Martial's available, etc., they've got a front three that's good. They've still got Rashford. They've still got Greenwood. They've got people going forward, but defensively they're very vulnerable. They have got a left back. Luke Shaw is nowhere near good enough. I don't think he'll play. The new boy will play. I agree, Steve, with what you've said about Maguire. I think he's got exposed recently for the one pace that he is. He needs a quick man at his shoulder that's going to help cover certain things. He hasn't got that. The goalkeeper is a bag of nerves. Do they dare drop him and bring Henderson in? So their problems are at the back. So we have got to exploit that. If we just try to stifle midfield or play at the back against their front men, even without Money and without Martial, they will tuck us up. We have got to have a go at the heart of their defence and the keeper and have a real pop. Now, we don't have a lot of shots on goal normally. That, if you look at our stats, we don't do that. We've got to do that in this game to have any real chance. And therefore, instead of relying totally on Callum Wilson and St. Maximin, which is what we've done, so I would like to see Ryan Fraser come out of his shell, having had the experience with Scotland against Slovakia, and burst at them as a third attacking. What I don't want is for him to play 90 minutes tonight, come back, Steve Bruce take a look at him and say, well, he's a bit shot at 2.5 games in 1 week and never starting for us. I'm going to have to put him on the bench again. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for him to go in and do what he did 2 years ago at Bournemouth when he and Callum Wilson had the Premier League terrified. That's why we bought him. He's been injured. He just hasn't been match sharp. He isn't coming back for an injury. Let him be released. Let him be positive. Let him go with St. Maximin and Wilson and have a go against the goalkeeper, which is what Malcolm's been talking about.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, prediction.
And also, just sorry to butt in, but what I haven't mentioned is Steve Bruce. this is the one game that he really must want to win above all. To beat his old club, Man United. And he should, and through this week and getting near to the weekend, he should be really winding the players up. Come on, I'm relying on you. Come on, we're not going to get beat. And get the players really up and bubbling and alive and just dying to get out on the football field and get hold of Man United by the scruff of the neck. I don't know whether he's that kind of a manager, though.
No, I think he's an arms around the players. He's a motivator, a man motivator, man manager. He's not a coach. He's not somebody like that. So you never know. Look, we got the result last season against them. As for wanting to beat Man United, I'm not so sure. I always feel he's a Man United supporter. I don't think he's a Newcastle supporter at all. I've always felt that he was a Man U fan. But I might be wrong. He's never done anything. He's never done anything to suggest that. But I always get the impression he supports Man United. But we'll see. Give us a prediction, Mal.
I'm going to take Newcastle to win 2-1.
Okay, John.
My heart says exactly like Malcolm that Newcastle will win 2-1. My head, after many years of following Newcastle United, it says they'll lose 2-1, that we can't be as good as we were against Burnley and they can't be as bad as they were against Spurs. I've always gone with my heart above my head, which has been one of the problems of mine. So I hope my heart's right this time and not my head.
Great stuff, lads. Great show as always. Lots of people sending in very nice messages. So I want to thank you all for your contributions. Yeah, it's always lovely. Good. It's always nice to have you on. Happy birthday to Olivia Bernard. He's celebrating his birthday today. We always like to give a shout out to anybody who is. Yeah. We've only got 20 tickets left. As I say, it's a COVID audience. We can only get 80 in. So for the Food Bank Christmas night with Lee Clark and a few of the people of NUFC Matters, www.newcastlelegends.com if you don't want to miss out on that. And I will be back tomorrow night at the same time, 6 o'clock, with the lads who do the Retro Show. We'll be looking back at games between Newcastle and Blackburn tomorrow night. And a lot of people asking, are we doing a game chat on Saturday at 8 o'clock? Yes, we are. We will be doing a live match day live on Saturday at 8 o'clock to cover the Man United game. We'll probably start around about 7:30. And we'll be taking you all the way through. How we're going to watch the match, who knows? But I'm sure we'll find a way. As always, Malcolm, John,
I'm sure you will.
Great to have you on. And I just want to congratulate you, lads. This is the first show where you've done of NUFC Matters without mentioning or criticising Joe Linton.
Right. Steve, you've let us down. You just mentioned the man we're not going to mention.
Yeah, but we didn't even discuss it, and he hasn't been mentioned. And but I've got to be honest, some people have tried. They have tried. So I'll leave the last comment to Jason Carter. He says, excellent show. Thank you, guys, the two legends, and Steve. Yep, thanks very much, mate. Take care. See you next week,
Good night,
lads.
everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.